Structural holes theory can be used to establish news outlets as credible brokers to help fight misinformation. Structural holes are defined as a separation between non-redundant contacts, so people who don't know each other, and the person who knows the two people who don't know each other basically develops themselves as a broker. Brokers are able to gain social capital by becoming a source of information and resources. In addition to their direct network, brokers can learn to utilize their networks, which is also known as an access port. By leveraging these connections, brokers, in this case news outlets, are able to establish a far more robust network than an influencer or a citizen reporter with limited contacts and access information. Here's a visual on how to maximize your network and how utilizing access ports can also help maximize your network. Now, how can news outlets use structural holes to prevent COVID-19 misinformation? So first, they would need to identify important contacts, such as the WHO, community leaders, government representatives, etc., and broker information from these contacts with their general users who don't have direct access to these people, organizations, and the information that they may be disseminating. Then they need to leverage their access ports of these contacts to reach users that the news outlet is not directly connected to. So consumers who don't currently tune into their network for their information. So for example, primarily Spanish-speaking communities were found to place the majority of their trust in their network provider versus something that they saw on social media or even something that they saw in the news. So news networks could leverage a community doctor in order to be able to reach that community and also to make sure that the community is receiving information that has been vetted and validated. In addition to that, news outlets can also leverage their network to create echo chambers. Echo chambers occur when one user's content is shared at a higher frequency than others. So again, if the community doctor was to retweet something that this news outlet shared, there's a higher probability that the community would then engage with that post, share it, maybe like it, etc., than if they hadn't leveraged that network and those access ports. So that is how news outlets can utilize structural holes to prevent COVID-19 misinformation.
Uncertainty reduction and the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic created heightened uncertainty across the globe, leaving individuals in desperate need of answers regarding health, safety, and understanding of the virus. News sources were the bridge between people and this much-needed information. Not all news sources took accountability, though, in providing accurate information, and instead provided false information, only furthering the uncertainty. Key points of uncertainty reduction. The original definition of URT theory was initially proposed within an interpersonal framework. Uncertainty reduction theory suggests that individuals attempt to gather information about themselves and others during initial encounters to lessen uncertainty. Uncertainty reduction theory can be found in various interactions. The theory can be applied to interpersonal relationships, either in initial interactions or more long-term ones. These interactions can occur both in person or online. URT can also be applied to interactions between entities and their environment, as seen during the COVID-19 pandemic. Uncertainty does create an emotional impact on people. Individuals are often drawn towards sense-making and patterns, thus giving uncertainty the power to evoke the feelings of anxiety and discomfort. Misinformation was able to thrive on the uncertainty that both civilians and those providing news media experienced. During this time, it was very important to fact-check information. With some media sources creating false trust and fear amongst audiences, it was of importance for news sources that valued ethical journalism to hold themselves accountable and perform thorough fact-checking on information provided from experts. Research conducted on the misinformation spread during the pandemic could be broken down into two categories. Fabricated information, where info was not based on fact, but instead made up, and information that was reconfigured in meaning, either made to be more dramatic or engaging for audiences regardless of the truth. Speaking of the truth, those consuming media struggled to define the difference between credibility and trust as uncertainty within the media grew through differing information provided to the public. The information experienced by audiences did have an impact on them. Although the original framework of URT proposed that more information gathering was always better, it was later discovered that this is not true. Gaining more information does not always ease the tensions of uncertainty. Individuals consuming news media were found to experience more emotional distress from both circumstances and the misinformation being spread at the time.
Opinion leaders, or the concept of two-step or even multi-step flow of information, are used to understand the multifaceted impact of COVID-19 misinformation on news outlet credibility and ethics. This theory establishes that various factors influence information processing, audience perceptions, and media credibility dynamics. But what does this mean for journalists when it comes to filtering and presenting information? Well, opinion leaders are influential people who interpret information from mass media and then convey it with their own personal opinion in order to influence others. This is often a 2 or more step process in getting information to followers, as most of the public is not influenced initially by mass media messages, but forms an opinion after hearing from another person. This may be a friend or family member or someone they trust with opinions. Here's an example of an opinion leader, Shea Whitney, a popular social media influencer.
Everyone is talking about this toiletry bag. I did not think I needed it. I really don't need it. But as you can see, like, it sits there like a normal toiletry bag, has a nice little handle. I love like the woven detail, but the zipper's kind of diagonal. And so when you unzip it, it opens up and lays completely flat, and you can visibly see everything so much better. It's like a really well-designed toiletry bag, and the price is like so good. And then to close it back up, it just turns into like a nice compact toiletry bag.
You can see Shea Whitney is trying to influence her followers to purchase an item off of Amazon. We're more likely to be influenced by other people than mass media. In terms of misinformation regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, it's easy to see how one opinion leader can interpret mass media communication and share it through a 2-step process with the following masses. The key to spreading misinformation comes from the opinion leader and their interpretation or their desire to influence the public in a specific way. Journalists must search for other independent sources when verifying news tips. Trusted journalists present verified consensus from findings. They share verified information and never pay for news. They report without personal opinion, setting them apart from social influencers like opinion leaders and citizen reporters and entertainers, commonly seen in social media today. Journalists face new demands and challenges in a changing media landscape today. They are required to keep their audiences engaged with new or fresh information in a fast-paced, constant cycle in order to keep up with the 24-hour spread of social media content. It's significantly challenging to ensure credibility of sources and take the time to verify with multiple independent sources in order to stay competitive with the pressure to produce. Some best practices include a multi-step verification process at the production and editing level of news agencies. This does take away from the spontaneity, however, it ensures accuracy and therefore maintaining the reputation of trustworthy news media.